So this is just for posterity's sake. It's pretty. It's not early. I like 7:45. I woke up. I've been pondering, contemplating Plato a lot lately. So at one point, just to do a brief summation, I'm gonna get into it more in depth as I got to do some more research, obviously. But one point that I came to conclude is that while watching a documentary, a homemade documentary about a guy that did, it's called Secrets in Plain Sight. It's like 3 hours long. The guy did great work. It's about architecture in throughout the what we consider the modern world, and the ties that it has to ancient religions, and along with the mystery schools. Now, from studying Campbell, Joseph Campbell, um, and the people well, anyways, from studying Campbell, I drew from him, or at least he said, and I accept, and I took what he said as a token of such as my penny to get across the river Styx, and and I used it. But Joseph Campbell said that Plato was the first historic figure to publicly um, project, or teach is not the right word. This is a very difficult thing. Project or present or even utter or make public the mystery schools. That prior to him, such individuals would be literally they would be killed. This documentary gets into it a little bit too, which the guy does a really good job. And he talks about the school in Heliopolis, where Greek before the Greek Empire was really an empire. Greek young men were sent to be initiated in the ancient, more along the lines of Egyptian, but it could go further back. Egyptian mystery schools, and this is a lot of my assertion is that I agree with that guy's point, but my other assertion is that this is where you see the lineage of the adaptation of gods. So like Omen Ra became Zeus, and Zeus became Jove, and then you see later transition into Job becoming Jehovah. You see a more complex meshing. But anyways, we're watching that, and he cited Socrates and the basically I've read. I don't think I've read the whole thing, but the trial and death of Socrates. I've read portions of it. I would say at least a third of it. He was talking about Socrates as though he was a literal figure, and I am very clear that from my own personal standpoint, I have no empathy or no pity or no reverence and no sympathy for anything relating to Abraham. I identify all adherents or followers or anybody that holds that character of Abraham in esteem to be a self-professed demon. I call it fascio-erotic, as in fascism and eroticism together. That goes with the the eroticism I get from him raping his young slave, and then from Sarah, his wife, the princess, asking him to rape his own slave and all this kind of stuff like that. I think it was. I also came across a guy named Allegro. I think it's Marco or Michael Allegro. He makes a point that in the names of God, God has so many different names because they're not the same God. He says, if I'm not mistaken, he helped interpret some of the Dead Sea Scrolls when they were discovered back in the 50s. He was like literally one of the team members. He said that the God of Abraham was El Shaddai. And I remember a song when I was going to church. El Shaddai, El Shaddai, do 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 no no. Well, anyways, but he makes a point that from his expertise on language and actually being able to translate languages, El Shaddai was if I'm not mistaken, a Sumerian god, and El, which has been asserted, Beth El, house of God, El Shaddai, what's another one? Mike El, Rach El, all this kind of stuff like that. El, he says, is originally a Sumerian god, title for God. And it's not until you get to Moses in their lineage story, none of these characters I think are real, that you see Yahweh come into the scene, take the center stage. But on all of that critical assault, so to speak, of totally denigrating the totality of their religious belief into not even a myth, but maybe it could be a myth, but until it's a myth, if it's not a myth, it's a blatant, bloody, disgusting, fabricated lie. Okay? So in doing that, I assert that, and most people do too, that it's becoming more popular to ascribe the foundation of Christianity, at least. No, but not too many people go so far as Judaism, but Christianity at least with the mystery schools. So to me, Jesus, Abraham, all fake. Moses, Noah, all fake, which makes the stories even more diabolical. Lot fake. So the stories become totally just pure intention, as opposed to me recounting my life and telling you what happened in my life, and then you drawing whatever you want to do. When in that kind of a construct, there's pure intent infused into the implied. So to take my criticism a step further in the total degradation of all Abrahamic faiths, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Catholicism, Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses, whatever. The next step, because I assert that they are derived from the mystery schools, primarily from Roman influence, is to degrade and denigrate their sources. So I've come to the conclusion on my path, I've come to my own conclusion that Socrates was not a historic figure. The Socrates, likewise, is a story of that is a construct of intent. And on that direction, I basically come to identify Socrates, for the meantime, till I get into it more, as the equivalent of the tree of knowledge in the Garden of Eden. And I see the trial and death of Socrates as the expulsion from Eden, as well as a foundation, the foundation, the so far the best foundation I can find for the what is now known today, not only in name but in the function and the intent, as the Bar Association. Because the character of Socrates, while he's on trial and he's defending himself, makes a note that he does not speak the language that they speak. Now, this is the smartest person in the world, we're so to say. And inside of a court, the story goes that he is laid bare and helpless, and he has no defense because he knows not the procedures, or he knows not the language, because I have not spent my days in court. He says, I'm an old man, and this is my first time ever in this situation. From an intention standpoint, that is the intent of the bar. And again, I hold that the bar represents the barrier. And the barrier, basically the story of Socrates' death, is that the barrier is so great that, what is it, how's the Bible say? Something along the lines of God's wisdom is so far beyond man's wisdom. Well, the bar associates itself as the judge of all humanity, and it represents its wisdom through language and procedures that not even the smartest man in the world can comprehend or navigate, which is a ego bolstering and at the same time identity smashing, because you have to not, since Socrates is characterized as a humanistic figure, the only way past the bar is to shed everything Socrates. Because do you want to be Socrates drinking the hemlock, condemned to die? Or do you want to be the victor in the court? So there's a lot of intention there. So I'm going so far as to say that Plato's writings of Socrates are mystery school teachings, that when you eliminate the character of Socrates as an actual person, then you can start to delve into the intent of each of the stories as they go. From him speaking with, I forgot his name, but when in Book 4 of the Republic, when he's speaking about the role of establishing a concept of an afterlife that is penile, in that it's penalty. That the afterlife has great certainty of a tremendous amount of pain, so as to manufacture in the minds of children, particularly boys, that if they are not good, they will go to this horrific afterlife and suffer immense amounts of pain, towards the sole purpose of, as they grow up and learn to navigate within that mentality, that you can turn them into soldiers easier than if they felt that life was perpetuated like a plant. That they felt their life was like a plant, and that as they died, they would see the next process. That had to be cut off and prevented from taking root, so as to maintain the capacity of the state, the republic. The republic is a generic, in the modern terms, the republic can be generically referred to as a state, probably. And the state could be a monarchy, which is a tyranny. There's no difference between them. It can be a democracy. It can be an aristocracy. It can be a democracy, which I believe is a theocracy, and possibly even a military rule. And it can be an oligarchy, which is wealth. the there's a mystery in that too, in the fivefold, because in one sense, what ends up happening, in truth, is that they all become one, and that's again the objective is a militarized state through the means of psychological manipulation that utilizes religious undertones, because religion is not the primary thing, it's just the undertone, to generate psychological uh, barriers that are that in sort of inhibit or like hurting. Basically, when they say sheeple, soldiers are sheeple, preventing them from being able to identify. Well, it's not that they can't identify. The brain can never not identify. They still identify what would be considered self-interest or self-preservation, that fight or flight kind of thing. But you can reduce the options that they see. So when you have a hell that is associated with when you bombard these concepts of loyalty or whatever it is to the state, as in you see with Christianity and through William Paley's writing on the duty of submission to the civil government, Christianity's extension of that is all of this stuff about submit to the powers that be because God put them into power and it's not your role to resist them. That's the militarization. That's the Socrates. That's the Republic Book 4 being replicated in a modernized format. There's a reason that what's considered an American Christian country is exactly and to the T founded off of the very society that crucified their central figure. The only way, this is where I warn Jews, until Americans, when Thomas Jefferson said the tree of liberty needs to be refreshed with blood regularly, I think if you wanna put any good to that, I think he's a piece of shit. We know that he was a rapey. He raped little girls his entire life. He had over 90 kids. He probably raped his own daughters because he saw them as property. He was a disgusting, scum-sucking, fascio-erotic pig. Not a pig. Pigs are not bad. Beast. Demon. But if you want to take that quote and add any value to it, strip it away from him, the best thing you can say is that rather than kill the blood on the tree of liberty, a simple solution would be something along the lines of, I mean, the most simplified thing I could think of is every decade, every half century, every century. I mean, there can be a term, come up with it every 25 years. The Constitution should be rewritten by a democratic or forget the democratic, because democratic is always dependent on a representative force, which is in essence an aristocratic rule, regardless of what happens, because the population can only pick people. When you have a democracy, the population can only pick from the four other sources. You can only pick a single person, and that happens because you see in England they hold to their king. Their royal crown, they won't give up their crown, no matter even how much. Look at it in Australia, they hold the crown too, and look at how shitty they treat them. The population can only pick the richest people because it's whoever stands out. They can only pick the most honorific, or they can pick the aristocratic, which are the best, whatever that means. So, but if you get into a plebiscite, this is why Plato doesn't mention a plebiscite. A plebiscite is where the representatives are not allowed to vote. The representatives are not allowed to garner any power whatsoever. So the position of the representative in a plebiscite is not something that is created as a lure like in democracy to bring out the most deprived and mentally deranged psychopaths that have no human capacity. That the biggest trait that they have is that they're cold-hearted, maniacal ways are willing to cut off portions of the population so as to achieve eminence that they can then use to retain wealth and honor and power and military might and popularity. So this is where the mystery school goes in. It's so again, this is just for really strong in my mind when I woke up this morning. So I'm gonna dig deeper, but the main point is Socrates represents the tree of knowledge. His trial represents the expulsion from Eden. His trial also represents the founding principles and the core intention of the Bar Association. So, and it's important to note too, in modern day America, the Bar Association the Bar Association is a company, and they have a monopoly. There is no such thing as a judge that is not a bar. That appears to be a stipulation or a requirement, when you get in a job, you need to meet the requirements. To be a bar associate appears to be a stipulation or requirement for judgeship, but that is a means of mass manipulation that the Bar Association has used to monopolize the legal system so as to impose rape, is the correct phrase, the society at hand. A fireman, a cop, a teacher, a doctor, an iron worker, a taxi cab driver, a trash collector, a nanny, a housekeeper, a gardener, a lifeguard, a college student, a window cleaner, a florist, a car mechanic, a farmer, a pilot, a geologist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist. That would probably be a pretty powerful force too. A computer tech, a retail clerk, a food server, a bartender, a pizza delivery guy. All of these people, by virtue of their citizenship, and more, just keep going, are legally qualified to be elected. That's an important thing there, to be elected to the position of judge. Even now, this is the hard part too, is even a convicted felon. So it's only through the bar's rape of the mass society in which they impose the Bar Association, as seen by the Citizens United verdict, that a corporation is a person. So you have the person of the Bar Association, which Henry Kissinger himself refers to as the tyranny of judges ruling American society, overthrowing murders of black people because they don't see it as that. Even if they're black, they assume the mentality of the Bar Association, and that's a tradition that's passed down that goes far beyond even the establishment of America, and has no interest in any American principles, what are considered American principles, because it is an association that transcends all that. So I'm going to get more into that. I'm going to keep dissecting that because I do intend for the bar to be deemed as low and as deplorable as the Nazis, and as brutal and as heinous as Mao, and as disgusting and maniacal as Stalin, because that is what they are in total essence. So that's this for today. Peace out. Oh, and I'm reading Black Elk Speaks. And I just want to say, man, get into it.